This is one that I'm very passionate about.
You
TV.
passionate about things?
Yeah, it's like we mock me, and like I accept the mocking from all of the friends about how passionate I get about things. I think the world's a much more boring place if you don't get unreasonably passionate about things. And this is something that has bugged me for a little while, and over the last kind of year, it's got even worse. So we're going to talk about it while we have a gap in content here.
Yep.
We're going to talk about it. How long should series be? Now, Horry was a little bit, rightfully so, confused about the way how I phrased this point, so I'm going to clear it up off the bat. How many episodes should be in a season of a series? Because I only realised that in the last year or so that a series is actually like a show.
Yep.
And a season is each, as I would think of it, series of that.
Right,
so I think of a series like Series 1, Series 2, Series 3. I always thought it was very American to call them seasons, but I realised that was actually me being just a bit backwards, which happens. So yeah, how many episodes should be in a season of a series? So I'm going to go through what I've got written down here.
Okay.
About like how I kind of roughly view it. Obviously, nothing's black and white, but this is in my head what makes sense. So mini series, as in this should only be one season realistically,
Right.
and it's designed to be mini and short. 6 episodes. The only people I've ever seen pull off 6-episode seasons regularly and to a good level is the BBC.
Yeah.
I've never seen the Americans pull off 6 episodes. Never once.
That's because they like to do things bigger.
Intense story taking place over a few days up to a couple of weeks. 10 to 13 episodes.
Okay.
So if you want it really fast paced and you want to feel like the person never has a chance to catch their breath, I'm okay with it being 10 to 13 episodes.
Yeah.
A mystery story that's slightly slower pace, where you want to keep the viewer guessing, 13 to 20. If they're not like constantly sprinting and trying to catch stuff, and like there's like almost like beach episodes, if you will, where they're kind of like, oh, we need to try and find a lead here. You've got to be getting to that like 13 at the bottom end, and you can take it all the way up to 20, I think, before you're pushing it. Kind of different story each week with little hints towards a larger story. Your more traditional kind of show. Your kind of what do they call them? Algorithm shows. I forget what the proper name for them is. Procedurals. Should always be 20 plus episodes. I've seen this thing now where they're trying to do procedural shows that are like 12 episodes. I'm like, you're a procedural. If you can't write 24 decent procedural episodes for a season, go home.
Yeah.
And sitcoms should always be 20 plus episodes.
Well, yeah.
Rick and Morty trying to get away with 10-episode seasons when the quality isn't blowing everything else in the space out of the water. Unacceptable. Family Guy has been doing 20 plus episode seasons for 20 years now, and it is still funnier than most other sitcoms out there.
Yeah.
You've got if you can't make me laugh for 20 episodes, we've got an issue. So that's kind of like rough guidelines how I view how long a season should be. But right now we're getting like The Acolyte, which is like 10 episodes, which is kind of right, but they were half-an-hour episodes.
Yeah. Now I'm similar places with you on things.
You don't massively disagree with any of them kind of
No,
boundaries.
I hadn't thought about miniseries, but when you started saying miniseries, I was like, 6 episodes, which is exactly what you said. The closest thing I can think of recently was Echo.
Yes, and that was actually a good example of it.
Yeah,
that one
it worked really well.
That took place over like 2 days.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was like really intense. Like literally, you felt like Jesus Christ, give Echo a chance to sleep. That was literally the only way to make 6 episodes work.
Yeah, but it was what it only needed to be. I have like general stories that are similar to like Acolyte and that sort of a show where we're big gaps between seasons. The story is not going to be a really long running story. It's probably only going to be a handful of seasons. I had like 12 to 13, which obviously Acolyte, like you just said, the episodes were shorter. It would have been nice if they were close to like 40 minutes each. And we'd got maybe 12, but I'm okay with 10. And then I kind of lent on kind of what I took in, like my idea of what I enjoy is also kind of comes from anime. Their long running stories often.
So, sorry, one sec. Acolyte was actually only 8 episodes.
Oh. Why don't we?
It was 8 episodes. It was
Yeah,
8
it was
episodes,
too short.
half an hour an episode. That's 4 hours. I'd sit down and watch a 4-hour movie. So why did that need to be that short? Do you know what I mean?
I feel like they could have done a little bit longer.
It either you've got to make that at least a 13-episode season if you want to keep 30-minute episodes, or it needs to be 10-hour-long episodes. Otherwise, like, they are dangerously close to just, it should have been a film.
Yeah. But with like longer series, I kind of have in my head, anime does it quite well where it'll be some series will be like 24 episodes long. Often, because obviously it's anime, they'll do 12, have a mid-season break, come back and do the next 12, which is fine. I'm okay with that. And then similar to what you said about like sitcoms like Family Guy and those sorts of shows, yeah, they should be 20 plus. Like they should be smashing them out. Like Rick and Morty doing 10. I mean,
And the other big thing that's coming up recently as well is the amount of times between these seasons. So you'll get, like, say the Acolyte, for instance. It will probably be 2 years until we get the next season of that if we get another season.
Yeah.
18 months at best for 4 hours.
Which is basically having a film and then getting the next film 2 years later.
Yeah, like that is crazy for a television show. Like, if they were doing it as a film, they're like, here's a 4-hour film, then 2 years later it's another 4-hour film.
I think
you're like, okay, that makes sense. But bearing in mind, we used to get, and like this sounds so boomer of me, we used to get a 24 episode season, and then 8-9 months later you would get the next season that was also 24 episodes.
Well, yeah, it's so I think this is like Disney especially, and with Disney Plus, is they wanted to get into doing TV, and I think what they've done is they wanted film quality, but they wanted to sell a TV format. So their response to that was like, well, we just take what would be a film story. This is basically would have been a film 5 years ago, but we want it in a TV format, so we just found a way to chop it up into like 6 to 8 episodes.
Yeah.
And it's like, cool, you're calling it a TV series, but it's not really fitting what people expect for a TV format.
Yeah.
I think you're right though. It's like if you think to shows like when, and like all the CSI shows, there was like fucking 5 of them, but each one was like 20 plus episodes a season, and it's like there was never really downtime because those shows were constantly in. They were filming the next episode while one's being edited, and it was like there was like a 5-episode kind of stagger or whatever that meant it just was constantly put out.
And do you know what the crazy thing is here? Part of it is because of the BBC. Because they put out shows like Line of Duty and that, which are like genuine TV masterpieces. And that is a 6-episode season, and then you don't get anything for 2 years.
Yeah.
And it's kind of become this thing now that, you're only going to get 6 episodes every 2 years. People are like, it's going to be really good then. So I think part of it, not all of it, part of it is this idea of, okay, well, if we tell them it's going to be 8 episodes and they're going to wait, they're going to assume it's better than it is. And it's like, it's seen as like this prestige badge, like, we're not doing too many episodes. We don't want to be like that police show that just does 1 million episodes a season. And as a result, like, if you're going to go, oh, right, I'm going to do a 10-episode season, you've got to be bare quality.
Well, yeah, I think you're right there. It's sort of this
because there's like a prestige in this weird small amount of episodes.
Since the streaming era, it's kind of become a thing of like, well, we need to stand out from TV. TV is known for just non-stop episodes. They're kind of mid-level with like the odd ones in a season are like fucking bangers, but generally the overall quality is like, yeah, this is like a mid-level quality but solid, enjoyable show. People just expect that I can binge these episodes. I'll just put them on TV and I can watch like multiple. They're like, we need to separate ourselves. We'll do like less episodes, but film quality, and we can really sell ourselves as like a quality project. Like you're saying, where partly comes from the BBC doing it. I think we also then it started to happen with like Netflix started laying the groundwork with Stranger Things was only like 12 episodes long or whatever.
Yeah, Daredevil, all of like the Marvel stuff on Netflix was 13 episode seasons, but they were all like 55-minute episodes. That is absolutely fine to me.
Yeah, I think it's just that stuff set the precedent for the streaming TV style, and it's just got diluted as these things do. It's wild because it is also sort of not to the same degree, but it has happened a bit in anime because from my understanding of the space, yeah, it used to be like 24 episode seasons, but because certain studios have, such as Mappa, which have sort of bought out all the big anime manga rights and doing all the big wanted shows, they're overworked. So now it is a case of like, yeah, you get 12 episodes and then you're going to have to wait a couple of years because they've got this other show they now need to do. And it's kind of slowed down output because the quality's there, but the staff isn't. So it's that same issue, but in a different realm in a way.
Yeah. It's insanity. Again, I don't want to give Family Guy too much airtime here for no apparent reason, but there's an episode in Family Guy that always like boils in the back of my head when I think about this, where Peter gets a bunch of boxes that track what people watch on TV.
Right.
Which is like kind of how they get the information about what America wants to watch.
Mm.
And you're only supposed to have one box as a family, and he steals like 100. So he can like skew the statistics so that he can control what gets watched on TV.
Got you.
And he destroys TV. Because obviously one person's opinion isn't good for TV.
Yep.
So then he goes in to fix it and he sits down and he's like, I need you to make 3 police shows that are 24 episode seasons. I need you to make 2 workplace sitcoms. I need you to make shitty reality TV. 1 on dating, 1 on trashy people, 1 on rich people. Go. And it's like you need a well-rounded amount of stuff for TV to actually be enjoyable. And I'm kind of sat there and I'm like, yeah, obviously it's a joke that like TV has a bunch of stuff that's like all samey. But at the same time, you do actually need it so that when something comes around that is 10 episodes, you're like, why are you doing less episodes there? What are you trying to do? If you look at Game of Thrones, they were 10 episode seasons until near the very end. Breaking Bad was 12 episode seasons. They are all-time great shows. How dare you think that you can get away with doing 8 30-minute episodes?
Oh, yeah. It's like, if I think back to season 1 of Game of Thrones, like, I like had to sit down and watch, like that was a solid day to like watch that through in one go. Could binge so like Acolyte in an afternoon.
Yeah, I'm not being funny right now. If we weren't recording right now, I would sit here and I would go through Disney Plus and I would work out like actual watch time, cutting out the bit at the beginning where nothing's happening and the credits at the end, and work out the actual runtime of Acolyte. And I don't get me wrong, I enjoyed Acolyte. This just Acolyte is very recent memory, and I'd be willing to bet actual runtime of them 8 episodes is about 3.5 hours. I've watched films longer than that, so why did it need to be formed in that way? And it comes down to a problem we've discussed a lot on this podcast about pacing of shows. How many times have we gone, this season would have been better with 2 more episodes?
Well, yeah, this is the thing that
we may as well have it on a T-shirt.
It goes back to what I said, which was I think Disney Plus or Disney is doing the thing where they're like, they know how to write, they know how to make films. They have done for years, but they wanted to get into TV, and it's like, well, this would be a Star Wars film. Let's chop it up for TV, but they don't realize there's different pacing for film than there is for TV because it's over like episodes. They've gone for this 6 to 8 where really it should be 10 to 12.
Yeah.
And I think they are like, we're seeing them slowly getting better. Like things are getting longer and feel like they're listening. we'll just have to kind of wait and see. Maybe they do slowly slip back and realize, oh wait, no, what was done in the past for TV is what works and what people need. Like, we don't need to change it. It works fine.
Do you know what's really driven this point home for me?
Well,
We've gone back to watch Netflix, Daredevil season 1. Me and Jenna hasn't watched all of the Netflix stuff,
right.
so we're going back through to watch all of it in chronological order as it came out. Because it for the most part it is good. And just rewatching Daredevil, we're just coming up to the end of season 1, which was 13 episodes. They were all like 55 minutes long. I'm like, don't get me wrong, there's some good stuff that Disney have put out, but the pacing just is nowhere near as solid as Daredevil was.
I do
And
think
it's a big problem.
I think it is slowly coming back to, and hopefully it has actually changed, because we know the writing rooms have changed since the strikes, which is mainly like, I feel like Star Wars stuff, like Acolyte would have already been done and stuff.
Yeah.
We're in that weird limbo now where we're going to see the end of that stuff, whereas we know Daredevil got a complete restart with fresh writers. Hopefully that is people coming in that are like, no, this is how you write TV. Like, this is better TV.
Do you not remember how insanely happy, but also dubious we were when originally we were told Daredevil Born Again was going to be 24 episodes?
Oh,
We're
yeah,
like,
we were
that
so
sounds
excited.
lit, but I don't believe it. And obviously, it's not the case anymore. It looks like it's going to be very similar to how Netflix did it, which was 13 episodes.
Yeah, which is still better than we've had.
Absolutely fine. They've got a lot of the people who worked on the original show on Netflix. They know how to make it 13 episodes work in a compelling way, so I'm not too worried. But I don't think people realise how big a difference 8 episodes and 13 episodes is.
Do you know what I also think it's come from? Is the early days of streaming, we got binge culture, which I know you're very much against.
Fucking hate binge culture.
And like, obviously I have the time, I don't care, I'll happily sit and binge a show. But I do think also the less episodes is to cater to that. It's easier for someone to binge through 3.5 hours of Acolyte than having to have an extra hour and a half on top of that for 3 more episodes.
Let me be clear, if you enjoy binging content, I'm not against you. My problem is streaming services dropping it for binging, so dropping all the episodes at once. That's what I'm against. If you're like, I like to binge shows, so I'm going to wait till the show is out and then binge it all, I actually don't mind that. Well, if that's how you want to enjoy content. What I don't like is streaming services going, oh, we're going to drop this for binges, because it affects the quality of the show in the sense of they always cut it just to make you want to watch the next episode, even if it doesn't make any sense. And also, it means if a show's really good, it gets forgotten about quicker. There's no time to talk about it, because it'll be really good. It all drops on Thursday or Friday. Me and you binge it over the weekend. We talk about it 1 week on the podcast, then we move on from it, ready for the next thing. It's over if it's 10 episodes, 1 a week. That's 2.5 months.
Yeah.
Of us getting to break down every episode and get to theorize about what's coming next, and we get to be excited about what's coming next.
I know you didn't watch Game of Thrones, but imagine if Game of Thrones was done as binging. People would have been...
It wouldn't have been anywhere near as successful.
No, because people would talk about that like week on week.
2.5 months a year while Game of Thrones was out, there was a new episode of Game of Thrones, and the entire internet spoke about it. It's the exact... like, think about it now. I get it's massive, but Love Island... daily episode, because it's reality TV, they can't obviously drop it all at once for a binge. And it dominates social media because everyone's talking about it live as it's happening. I don't understand why Disney isn't like, oh, we want that. We want, and like Prime Video, we want people to be talking about our show for 2.5 months every Wednesday and Thursday.
I mean, I think Disney is going to go that way because they do the weekly releases, and I think Daredevil could be the first step of this getting better with them doing the 12 episodes or whatever. I think Prime, it's a struggle because Prime doesn't mix. Sometimes they've done weekly, sometimes they drop it all at once.
Yeah, so Prime have like 3 different styles of release. They do a drop all at once. They do 2 episode premieres, then weekly, or they do batch releases, which is like 2 episodes, 2 episodes, 2 episodes, 2 episodes. I don't mind a double bill release. We discussed that before.
Yeah.
I think if it's a brand new show, That's a really good way to get people invested by giving them a bit more to watch. So the first episode is normally a setup. The second episode gives you a bit of idea of where the show goes, and then people can decide whether they want to watch it or not. That makes sense to me. And then the weekly release allows people to be excited for the show.
I also
Let
don't
people be
hate.
excited again.
I also don't hate the double bill for like following seasons because it helps get you back. If it's been a year or so, it helps get you back into the show.
Yeah. That's what Reacher does. They do a double bill release because each season of Reacher is a brand new story. Yes, it's the main character that is the same, but it's because it's based on a brand new book. It's a brand new story. So they go, here's the double bill, so you get a feel for what the story is this season.
Yeah.
And then you'll be hooked, you'll be excited, you'll go next week. Dropping everything all at once screams to me a lack of confidence in your product.
Well,
you don't think people are going to turn up next week for the episode. You want them to just sit down and watch it all in one go.
I think it's also from those people that like they're still stuck with the mindset of what Netflix has done. So they think that is what people want now, and I think people are starting to shift back. I think Prime.
One day Netflix will answer for their crimes of binge culture.
I think Prime is going to. I think we're going to see more shows switch to the episodic because Prime will probably start to have those numbers to show people to be like, look, this is the retention our daily weekly release shows get. Because I presume that all comes from a discussion with them. They'll be like, how do you want to drop your show? These are we do it these few ways, and that the showrunners pick one. But like they'll probably get to a point where Prime's like, yeah, look, these are the shows that we release weekly. This is the retention they get over this time. Here's what happens if you drop it all in the first week. And then I think slowly they'll start shifting back to the weekly.
Yeah, I agree. But it's got to change for sure.
Just to brief, obviously we talked a lot about episode lengths of a series. I think we should also mention just seasons of a series because we have seen it in the past where shows go on too long, too many seasons. I also think there has been occasions where shows have tried to do it in too few seasons.
I have such strong feelings on this.
I think my attitude is always decide what your story is, do as many seasons as is required to tell that story in the best possible way, and then end it. If you want to stay in the world and do more with that world, but it is a second set of characters, start it as a new show. It is a new story.
So I have a particular show that I like to pick on for this exact example.
Okay.
It's a show. It's a very small show. You probably won't have heard of it. Grey's Anatomy.
Okay.
Grey's Anatomy was a very good TV show when it first came out. It dealt with the dramas and the highs and the lows of working in a hospital. Here's the problem with any kind of drama. The drama can never get smaller.
Nope.
And then when you get up to, I believe they're on their 21st season of Grey's Anatomy now. At that point, you have to have the most insane shit imaginable going on every week. So, like, I've given Jenna a lot of shit for this because she claims she wants to watch like better TV and less just crap TV. But she will then put on these things where it just has the most. It starts off good, and then by the end, it's just these most insane plot twists every single episode because they don't know how to like slow down the drama they've created for themselves. And it's like they're the kind of shows that you get out after 4 or 5 seasons. I've said it about The Bear already. If The Bear gets to season 6 or 7, it is going to fall off a fucking cliff because it's already such a dramatic show. And like we've already said, drama can't go down. What does The Bear look like in season 8 with it constantly getting more and more dramatic? You're going to have nukes going off in the kitchen.
No, yeah, I think The Bear, I'm pretty confident in their ability to know when to end it. I mean, no, I'm with you. I think shows like Grey's Anatomy, I guess a lot of the CSI ones kind of bordered on the line. Some of them did it okay, some didn't. Realistically, should have taken a page out of the UK's book on soaps. Like, if you want to do a show that long running, you need to write it in the format of a soap, less of a drama.
But even soaps like stuff from the same idea of bullshit. But
don't get me wrong. The soaps still have their crazy, but they also it's also perfectly normal to have like a few weeks where there's not really anything crazy happening. It's just all drama between characters, sort of what you expect from a soap. There's one show in my head that actually did too few seasons.
Okay.
Game of Thrones.
I mean, I was happy that when everyone stopped
Yes,
talking
I
about
know.
it, but
Everyone, but you'll know, everyone says seasons 1 through 7, great show, amazing. They absolutely killed themselves with season 8. The reason season 8 was such a shot in the foot was two parts. One, they'd reached the end of the books that were written and George R. R. Martin hadn't finished, and they were like, well, we want to finish the show. So they kind of winged, like they started to, he gave them the footnote sort of thing, and they kind of filled in the gaps. So they didn't have the material to work with. My other issue was, for 7 seasons, we'd had a very set format of how the speed at which characters had developed. Suddenly in season 8, lots of characters developed very quickly. And it was gone from 10 episodes for the season 7 to 8 episodes for season 8. So suddenly it was just like, oh, we're going at this pace, and then boom, all this shit just happens. I think they made the thing of, there's all this hype around it. We're getting close to the end of the story. We need to wrap the story up. Really, it should have been another 2 seasons at least.
So, I imagine, being British, that you are aware of the British comedy show called Fawlty Towers.
Yes.
Very iconic.
Yes.
Like, incredibly iconic. Do you know how many episodes there were?
Not that many.
12.
Yeah, it's similar to like Monty Python and stuff, where there's only actually like 8, if that.
There was 12 episodes of Fawlty Towers across 2 seasons, one in 1975 and one in 1979. I would rather shows leave early than leave late. My real concern about this is we will never get another Breaking Bad. Because what you get now is, like, even you talking about like staying in the universe if you want to. Breaking Bad worked because in like the first episode they're like, you're gonna die of cancer. There's nothing that can be done to stop that.
Yeah.
And then the show ends, spoiler alert, with him dying of cancer. And you go, right, there was 6 seasons. He's dead now. The show's over. You knew he was gonna die. It doesn't mean the story to get there was any less thrilling and exciting. But they were like, we said he's gonna die. Whereas now, I feel like in season 5, they'd be like, oh, cooking meth cures cancer. And they'd find a way to keep him going. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. There are some shows that do it right. Like, I mean, The Boys is an example. They clearly want to make more in that world. They're making the spin-offs.
Yeah.
It's obviously...
They're getting very close, though.
Well, yeah, but like, as long as the spin-offs don't go too crazy, like, I'm okay with them doing new standalone stories in the same world. Like, that's basically what the MCU is. But like, say the boys have been like, oh, I guess the end of this story, and they're like, no, we're gonna now go, oh my god, flashback, and we're back and it's the boys season 8, but it's actually set as a prequel. Like, that shit would have just been dumb.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is obviously some shows run on too long. I do think some shows rush their endings, which then hurts it, like Game of Thrones.
I completely agree. As a general rule, if you want to be a dramatic show, and don't get me wrong, a lot of the dramatic shows that go on too long are very good for the first 5 or 6 seasons.
Lost.
Just know to get out at the right time.
Yeah.
This is and like, don't get me wrong, for a long time it's seen as a very American problem. I don't think it's solely an American problem anymore. But for a long time it was seen as an American problem. Friends. You could condense the last 3 seasons of Friends into one really good season.
Yeah. I mean, even Friends, they got themselves out. Like, nowadays, yes. I think they would have kept that show going.
Yes. How I Met Your Mother, of all modern sitcoms, don't get me wrong, the ending I know is still controversial, but they kind of got out at the right time.
They did.
Again, them last few seasons probably could have just been one season.
Yeah, but like, again, they'd set the precedent of like, this is his kids being told how he met. Like, there was a set end point of like, When I Meet Your Mother. So
Modern Family did okay, because they had kids growing up. That was giving them new stories to tell, so that kind of worked.
yeah.
But yeah, it's a bigger problem with sitcoms and dramas, like police shows. Like by the end of a normal police show, you will start a police show that is just like two detectives, and like there's nothing that crazy. And by the end of it, these two detectives who should be pretty normal by all accounts have led the two most traumatic lives that have ever been lived, and they just act normal still. And it's like, no, that amount of trauma would put them in a mental health home. They wouldn't be able to function as normal people still. But you don't know how to get yourselves out of the situation.
I will say the two of those sorts of shows that I feel did it okay was CSI New York, because I used to watch that a lot, and they had their characters. Some of them characters like properly like developed with some of the stuff that happened, and like some left and different things because of like shit.
That's the only way to get a show like that to go on long is for the cast to rotate. When you're like, that character's been through so much shit now, they've got to go away.
The other was NCIS, which also had certain characters be like, no, I'm retired. But then they did the drama thing of like, oh, they've had to come back for this certain thing. But like, that eventually came to an end, and it's like, they had some of the team change and like different things. But again, definitely, they got away with it a bit more because NCIS was all around the military. So it's like, you can kind of get away with a bit more wacky stuff going on more regularly because like, oh, that doesn't surprise me, it happens in the military. But yeah.
Do you want my God honest opinion?
Go on.
For the only things I think like can go on indefinitely as long as the writing stays good. Like the drama and the weirdness of it doesn't affect it as long as the writing is still good.
What's that?
Family Guy, because it's been batshit crazy from day one, so it can always be batshit crazy. That's not a problem as long as it's still funny. And superhero media, because they've been writing Spider-Man comics for 60 years. If you can't find a way to adapt that into like meaningful stories for 60 years, that is a writing issue. That's not a story issue, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have separate issues there of like actors, so it's more likely it has to be animated. But if it's animated, that makes it even easier because you can kind of just do shot-for-shot remake.
Yeah.
Which is why I think animes tend not to go on too long, because like the One Piece anime, they no, but like yeah, there's a fuck ton of episodes, but no one's going, oh, One Piece needs to end now, because they're literally just adapting the manga one for one.
Well, yeah, true.
Do you know what I mean? And that's the thing. As long as the manga for One Piece is good, the show is going to be fine.
Yeah, this thing with anime is like, it's rare they will do something that's not a manga. Or if it is, well, they'll do shows that aren't a manga, maybe that are original, but like they will never, from what I know, they don't go past a manga if it is a manga being adapted.
Exactly. Which means the writing is solid, otherwise it wouldn't have gone on that long.
Yeah.
Which means as long as they adapt it like One Piece is doing for like a 1-for-1, they're just taking a manga, and making it an animated production. It means that you can rely on that being good as well, because you know that's good. Like, is the One Piece anime not currently caught up to the manga, and that's why there's no episodes coming out right now because they're waiting for the manga to release more?
Possibly.
Like,
I forget
and
which.
This is my thing.
Oh, is it I think it is One Piece where it's like, he said, "Oh yeah, we've only just finished the prequel." There's one of them where there was like a crazy number of episodes, and it's like, "Yeah, that's the prequel done. Now we're actually getting into the story." And people are like, "Wait, what?" Yeah. We haven't even started the actual main story yet.
Yeah, and that's my issue with shows. They don't know when to get out at the right time, and like soaps, like you said, of like how they go on for like 60 years. The thing is, when they, like you say, they'll have 6 weeks where it's just normal, like human, real drama of, oh, you were very mean, so I'm not talking to you. So then when there's a big bit of drama that is still human, like a love affair,
yeah,
that is a big spike. But with soaps, they bring it back down to normal afterwards. They don't get caught in that trap of Grey's Anatomy and police shows, or the next bit of drama has to be bigger than the previous bit.
Yeah.
They're like, no, everyone just goes back to living their fucking life.
Also, like, I feel with British soaps, yes, there are some characters that have been around forever in those shows, but a lot of them do move on and they bring in fresh ones. Like, they have a good, they allow a natural rotation.
Cast.
Yeah.
Yeah, such a large cast, for sure.
But yeah, there's definitely improvements to be made in the streaming world of TV.
And with that being said, as I've said before, I'd love to write a comic. I will come and help write a TV show. I'll fucking do it. I can't. I'm not a particularly skilled writer, but I will be like a sounding board to work with good writers. I think I have a lot to offer, and I'll die on that fucking hill, ego or not.